Okay, so I'll begin with the introduction, and then Nuzat will join.
Yeah, and we are live on YouTube.
Okay. Hello and welcome everyone to the fourth edition of Ananke's Women in Literature Festival. I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Zarmeena Ansari, founder of Joy of Urdu, and Rabila Kidwai. We have my co-host, Nuzat Nisar Ahmad, will be joining us very soon. But first, I'd like Zarmeena and Rabila to tell us a little bit about themselves. And Nuzat is here, so she can take charge from now. But Zarmeena, please tell us about yourself.
So I know that these are really short, relatively short sessions, and you've got such an exciting array of talks, very different talks, Sabine. So thank you, kudos to you guys for managing this, for doing this every year. I've been part of, and Joy of Urdu has been part of Ananke's Women in Literature Festival in the past. It's always interesting. It's always a pleasure to be here. So first of all, thank you so much for including us. Because I know that we're on a schedule, I'm actually going to quickly read ताकि वो ज़्यादा लंबा नहीं हो जाए. So, just as a quick introduction, my name is Zarmeena Ansari. I'm the founder of Joy of Urdu, which is a bilingual platform to promote Urdu, interestingly, using English and other languages. And we recently published our first bilingual book on the 10th anniversary of founding this organization. So my personal background is that I was trained as an architect, and after a master's from MIT, I specialized in cultural tourism consultant. I've been a journalist. I still am. I still write. And I've lived in many different countries around the world. UNESCO said something about, this is a quote from UNESCO, that oral traditions and expressions are used to pass on knowledge, cultural and social values, and collective memory. They play a crucial part in keeping cultures alive. So living in all these countries, I realized that language is the most important connection to our culture and roots. And it was when I tried finding appropriate linguistic resources for my child as an expat mom that made me start what I call my bucket list project. And we can talk about that later. But I'd love for our wonderful designer, Rabila Kidwai, who heads the design, all of the design of Joy of Urdu, and is the brilliant designer of the book that we just launched in Dubai at Jashn-e-Rekhta. So, Rabila.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Sabine, for inviting me. It's such an honor to be on a panel with Zarmeena, really. So my name is Rabila. I'm an independent designer. I'm mostly working within the arts and culture scene in the UAE. I've been working very closely with some very formidable sort of artists and curators, and exhibition making is a bit of a very recent focus, but it's kind of a forte now. I've been very fascinated with prints and publications, and that's how my journey with Joy of Urdu really started. In 2018, I was a volunteer at the Joy of Urdu event. I went and introduced myself to Zarmeena. She told me a bunch of like publications she had in the pipeline, and the rest is history. Like I kind of I was like, I'm all in. And she has a wonderful team of volunteers that she works with, and I'm just so happy to have made it this far. And I mean, obviously started on with many kind of different diverse design projects, but finally ended up doing Gulistan, and I would say such a milestone for us.
Thank you, Rabila, and thank you, Zarmeena, for your introductions. And I think we all know about you guys and your work, but specifically, if we speak about because the today's pie chat is about the importance of promoting traditional visual culture and Urdu script in children's literature. So, what is the thought behind Joy of Urdu to go on that kind of mission and to start Joy of Urdu in a country or in a world where Urdu is majorly not taken as important as English or any other language or even your mother tongue. We preferred English or something which we can have on a global medium. So let's speak about and share with us what was the journey and what was the inspiration to start Joy of Urdu for you.
So, as I mentioned, I've lived around the world, and I'd realized that language is the most important connection to our culture and roots. And one day we were in Moscow, and one day my son came home from his international school and said, don't talk to me in this language. And I think this is a story of many, many third culture kids and many parents. And it's so difficult. So I have full sympathy with parents who, after a very busy day, just don't have the mental bandwidth to really, it's a battle. If you are completely bilingual, as many of us are, if you do not speak English at all at home, you're in a better situation. The child knows that, घर पे अंग्रेजी नहीं बोली जाएगी, सिर्फ उर्दू में गुफ्तगू होगी. But if the child can see that you're code switching, which is that you're changing languages, you're multilingual or trilingual, the child will basically use the easier language, the language in school, and in my son's case, English. And so he was about 5, 6, and I decided that I'm going to incentivize him listening to Urdu by saying, look, I'll read you an English bedtime story if you listen to an Urdu bedtime story. So I would go to Pakistan from Moscow. You were building a house in Lahore. So I had a number of trips. So every time I'd go, I'd bring back a carton of books. And, long story short, it was a big problem. He was not interested. And I think one day, just basically looking at the age inappropriate content and the age inappropriate vocabulary, the level of production, the difficulty in reading the Urdu script for myself, the design quality or lack thereof. I just said, what, this is my bucket list project one day, after trying to read him a story. I said, okay, we have to print our own bilingual children's books. So ये तो खुद ही करना पड़ेगा. But I went online, I tried to find resources, and that's where Joy of Urdu started initially, with this idea that at some point we will print our own books. But at the moment, let's at least start to create bilingual content. And it was not just for my son, it was for myself, because I went away at the age of 15, 16, I got a scholarship to a United World College, and I went away to the US and to Canada, sorry. I was in the US later, in Canada, and I realized that, for somebody who prided herself as being one of the best in the English literature class, we had an assignment where we were supposed to give an analogy from our own literary traditions to an international group of students, and I had nothing to say. So that was the first time I realized that there is something very, very wrong. Even if I was an easy Urdu student when I was in St. Joseph's, Karachi Grammar School, and then the United World Colleges and doing my IB, that there's something very wrong, that I don't know my own literary tradition. So this stuck with me throughout. We've got lots of, I don't want to go into that, they're fun stories. You can find them, all these anecdotes, on our YouTube channel on Joy of Urdu. I don't want to take all our time talking about those, but they are fun stories about how I always felt this need. But it really was my son who was a catalyst that made me say, okay, this is it, ye khud hi karna padega. And so we grew from there. It was, 10 years, we started reading group chapters around the world. I met, as Rabila said, Rabila at an event at Al Sarkal Avenue, a Joy of Urdu event in the summer program, where she came in as a volunteer. And the rest is history. She started doing like all the other volunteers, where it's completely volunteer-run organization. So we have no grants, no sponsors, no aid, nothing. We're just a group of committed people with this mission that we need to somehow make Urdu accessible, for people like me who didn't study it, and for I thought our expat or our sort of children in diaspora But it turns out that lots of parents in Pakistan also really loved what we were doing and the accessibility that we were trying to create using English to make Urdu accessible. So yeah, is that I'm trying to keep it brief. Rabila, do you want to add anything?
I think I just wanted to add from the perspective of visual culture and design that there has been, and very recently, I would say even in just the past decade, because I graduated around five, mm, 5.5 years ago. And there were projects in the university happening which were related to Urdu typography. And every time you go and research something, there is a lack of kind of experimental type, or there is less, like it wasn't developed as of at that time, but this is recently kind of becoming, people are exploring it more. I think people are giving it more attention, and I think books and publications, what they're doing is they're using, so typography is just a tool, and then this is how using these fonts and these scripts that are being developed now, they're being used in a much more kind of a mature and much more interesting way to kind of promote Urdu language, I would say. And I think that's what Joy of Urdu's that's what Gulistan is as well, like doing as well.
So yes, it's a lovely cover, and it has that Middle East and Persian charm on it, with the colors and the illustrations. And Rabila, I want to ask, do you have any inspiration? Obviously, you have to speak about that there is a lack of visual traditional culture in Pakistan or in anywhere where Urdu is being worked with. So, do you have any inspiration, or if when you get this project with the Gulistan, so did you do the research work, and did you find anything which can be compelling to you and appealing to you, and even from the English or other languages? What do you find after research?
I think it was a very experimental process for us, especially with this script. I think the biggest challenge that we were looking at was looking at the balance between the English and the Urdu. I think because we were very sure that this is a bilingual book, we did not want that one of the language, like one language is more prominent than the other. We were trying to erase any kind of hierarchy happening in this, because we were promoting it as a bilingual design, and because both of these languages, the letter forms, they're not created on the same kind of grid system, like not even similar. So when we had to go by the eye, so it was more kind of like an experimental sort of thing where you kind of put together different kind of font sizes and then different kinds of words, because like some of them have ascension, like there are ascenders in Urdu language, and then there are different ones in English. So it was more kind of, like I said, it's more like an experiment, and then you put together paragraphs and then sentences, and then print them out, and then see it, and you can't even only rely on yourself, so you're kind of running it by like different people. And then Zarmeena has such a lovely group of advisors we can completely trust. I'm sure she'll mention some of them, big names, feedback from them. So it was that kind of a process. I think in terms of the visual, when Zarmeena came to me with this project, she already had somebody on board with the illustrations. I think she'll be able to tell you a little bit more about how she came across Shah Abdullah Alami's work. But obviously this was she came to me with actual original miniatures, scanned in high quality, and she said these are the illustrations for the book, and I was blown away. But obviously in that way, my challenge was really the kind of, because it was miniature, I wanted to contemporize it a little bit, and how the layout was created. So if you run through the book, you'll see like I've cropped these out like from away from the detail, put them on like solid backgrounds, which kind of brings in a little bit of like minimalism, and then also which is and kind of when it's minimal, it's a bit more contemporary. So it's a mix. You'll see a bit of tradition happening, and then you see these layouts kind of deviate from high, heavy details into these like minimal elements, which I think also pretty playful, and I think kids respond to it as well. So for me, my basic research was just like children's books. I mean, I knew about it, but for me, mostly it was hands-on kind of research happening just between us, kind of experimenting with the type. Yeah.
It is very interesting, and I would love to hear more about it from Zarmeene. But first, I have to ask this thing that you have said that after 10 years of founding Joy of Urdu, you have launched Gulistan. So why did you choose Gulistan? I do understand that it is a timeless classic, and I don't think anyone can deny that it still resonates with all of us, and not only with the Middle East or South Asian people, but it has a global appeal and global impact. So why did you choose Gulistan to go with your bilingual project? Because it is as challenging as it is, and to work with Gulistan, so it is double whammy kind of challenging. So tell us about that.
Yeah, बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा. So just to clarify, we rewrote we did an English translation from Urdu. Or rather, sorry, we rewrote from an English translation and referred to the Farsi. Our advisory board also referred to the Farsi. And then we completely rewrote the Urdu. So it was happening like a kind of, it was like back and forth, like in architecture, we look at the plan, and then we look at the section, and then we look at the elevation. We change the plan because the elevation doesn't work, and then we change the plan because the section doesn't work. So in the same way, conceptually, we were working, on all of these things, and then looking at it from a visual point of view later as well. So what a great question. And we, in our little flyer that we made, we actually chose to answer this because a lot of people would ask कि भाई आप पहली किताब bilingual कर रहे हैं तो originally ये तो फारसी में थी, so why this book? And the reason for that is there is a whole conceptual, whatever we do, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So in these times of cultural drift, the great classics of our own civilization provide the best guidance for our next generation. So these three hikayat or fables, they were used to transmit cultural values, or these wisdom tales were used to transmit etiquettes. And Urdu is not just a language, but it's a tehzeeb or a civilization. And traditionally, this book was a foundation for learning. Just like, the well-educated people used to, in the West, would have Latin as a base. So they were considered well-educated if they knew Latin and French, etc., etc. In the past, if you were well-educated, you knew Farsi, you knew Urdu. I mean, Faiz Saab ki jo shairi hai, Iqbal ki shairi hai, these people were fluent. It was not another language. It was part of your sort of language pedagogy. It was part of being well brought up and well educated to be knowledgeable in these languages. Like in the past, you had to have a knowledge of all of these other traditions, linguistic traditions, of mythology. If you look at T.S. Eliot's poems, you cannot read them if you haven't, Sabine is a mythology expert. So you would have to have that biblical information. You would have to have that. So similarly for Faiz, the Surah Rahman is referenced. You wouldn't understand the beauty of the poem or its nuances if you don't know the religious and linguistic Arabic and Persian context. So we thought that if we are going back, first of all, we start with children, right? So of course, there are people like me, and we have a whole program for people like me who are complete non-Urdu dans. Like I am not, I'm easy Urdu. So whatever I've learned thanks to all our advisors. So I'm no expert, and that's a good thing because I have advisors who are experts and they're amazing, like Dr. Arfa Saida Zehra. But what they decided, our advisory board, that in the same way in the past that we used these hikayat, that was not divorced from Urdu. It was part of the whole culture to learn all of these things side by side. So we decided to choose it and start our different series of books. And this is the first of what we call the wisdom tales. And we hope that it'll be a foundation for learning Urdu by providing an alternative to Urdu pedagogy and perception. How the language is taught and perceived. So that is the reason why we chose Sheikh Saadi, because it can be, these short fables were often taught to children because in the Farsi, it's a poetic form, so they would learn the Farsi by learning these. But then as they grow older, they understand that there are many deep layers that Sheikh Saadi, who was a Sufi saint of the 13th century, that they actually have many more deeper meanings, more Gnostic meanings as well. So from a conceptual point of view, it works as well. That's why we chose Gulistan. Hello, I think.
Go ahead, Nuzhat. You're on the, yeah.
Yes. So of Gulistan Sadi, and I think when I first saw the title, and it was so refreshing to find it in the mainstream right now, because I think as you have said that in the old times it was a book which you have to have read in your childhood, and you have to have learn it by heart, and everyone we have a set of two books at our home, and nowadays we cannot find these kind of books, or especially sadis, and the biling what is the response you have received with converting it into a bilingual book, and do you have any plans to work on it, or work on some more fables in the future, or is it enough for you to go with the 3 fables? What are your plans about it?
So I'll just answer your second question first. As Ravina knows, we are a volunteer organization. We're quite we're quite swamped and quite overwhelmed at times. We have a lot of projects in the pipelines. The question is, getting the right help. And at this point, I think we need the resources to be able to do, the very, very ambitious projects that we have managed to do without resources in the past. But I think they're only now going to be possible if we can consolidate it and do it in such a way that it's much more efficient, faster than taking 6 years. So yeah, we have a lot of things in pipelines. Like I said, this is from our wisdom series, and it says over here that this is the first of a series of books in the Joy of Urdu Wisdom series for children. So similarly, we have a number of series planned, and the work has started for, they're in various stages, books, inshallah. So, and also for adults, but we start with the kids. So that is the second question answered, that yes, that is, we are planning to go ahead. It may be not from Gulistan, it might be from Bostan, it might be from another cultural tradition for kids, but that will be the wisdom tale. And then there are other books for kids in a different series. So you had asked about the reaction of people to this. So initially, this is a very, very good question, and one that I'm very proud to answer, because initially when we started, it was a book for toddlers and early learners, okay, and their parents and teachers and caregivers, okay, that's what we started with. And we have people who bought this book it turns out that there are people, college students, who say, oh my gosh, this is perfect because you guys have a glossary at the back. The font sizes, the sociolinguist. Oh yeah, there you go. You have it too. So we have a glossary at the back, and people picked up on the fact that when they have a book, the font is very difficult to read. So they appreciated these pages, which are the glossary pages. I don't know if you can see that. They appreciated the fact that the font sizes were easier on the eye. They really appreciated the Urdavi font. So this is a new font that was being developed, and we were actually offered this font by the company that is developing it, at the cost of the book being quite late and delayed more, but it was totally worth it because you can't tell where the hand khattati finishes and the digital font starts. This is the first book in the world that has been printed with the Urdu font, which is not even in public right now. And it was beta tested. So they would write a sentence, they would go back, change the code to see if it worked. And it actually doubled Rabila's work. It doubled our work because we were ready to go into print. And then we were given this new font. And we literally had to redesign the whole book again with this font. And it's not like, you copy, you select all, and then you just change the font. No, it literally was line by line that the code wasn't rewritten. So it was a whole thing. So people who are sociolinguists, who are language pedagogy experts, people who are learners, immediately picked up on the ease of reading in this, that it's, Haath ki khattati is better to read than the digital fonts that are easily available now. And this is an improvement on that digital font. So it's like Haath ki khattati and very hand calligraphy, and it's easier to read. The other interesting thing that we found was there's this person who is teaching, who's doing a PhD thesis on language pedagogy and teaching French at the University of Minnesota. And I don't know, she was in Pakistan because she started to learn Urdu. And for whatever reason, and for her research, and she found out about a book, went somehow or the other, managed to contact us, and she said, can you please send it? And we're like, we're only, we're a volunteer-run organization, not commercial. We can only send it to you in Lahore or Karachi or Pakistan. And she said, no, I'm going to Lahore and then I'm flying back to the US. So can you send it? So we sent it, and she wrote such amazing things. So we asked her, can you please put that in a video? Because here are people saying, like Zehra Nigar, who is, as you know, one of the top contemporary Urdu poets in the world right now, is calling this a jewel, okay? Writing a poem for children based on this book. That poem has been composed to music by Arshad Mahmood Saab. I mean, this is all like crazy, right? I mean, like, wow. We're all amazed. Like, we're all amazed at that this kind of attention. But then you have this person who's saying, I am teaching at the University of Minnesota. I would like to, and I'm writing about this. I found this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is so easy because I am looking for something like this for my own reading practice. And she's not doing it for kids or for her children. She's taking it for herself and also as a research material. Because, I didn't do it myself. Rabila did it herself, the design part. But I didn't do it. I mean, that's what I always say. There's a huge team who did this. People who we went to back again and again. People who know. You and I don't know as much as Zehra Nigar. You and I don't know as much as Dr. Arfa Saida Zehra. You and I don't know as much as even the artists that gave their feedback to Rabila, Salima Hashmi, Professor Nazir Shataula, people who are Amjad Amjad Saab Allah Bakshe, when he saw he wrote a column for us in his, on Joy of Urdu. So हम नहीं कह रहे ये बहुत अच्छी किताब है, ये हमें पता है कि बहुत अच्छी किताब है क्योंकि हमें बताया गया कि ये बहुत अच्छी है, क्योंकि we really never said we've done this and now you guys deal with it. We took every suggestion from people who know, because we don't know. I don't know. So these are the people who advised me, and the result was this book. And the result that we thought that, oh, it's going to be toddlers and teachers and parents, it turns out to be, no, my friends and strangers who say, oh, we just want this as a coffee table book. Language pedagogy experts, Lahore Grammar School, many branches have ordered multiple copies, other schools as well. And teachers, the schools in Karachi, parents, grandparents. So, and this is in Pakistan, and the people abroad, of course, who are saying that, you know, we have English books and they have this quality. But when we go to Pakistan, we have nothing with the kind of comparable paper quality, artwork, and contemporary design. And can I ask Rabila actually to talk about the how she managed to contemporize or make it contemporaneous rather, this thing that we had content that was from the 13th century. We had paintings that were specially commissioned for this book. They're not copies. These are miniature paintings that were specially commissioned. And how do you take something so traditional, how do you then present it in a way that you have kids who are abroad, who are looking at other things and make it visually attractive and not something regressive and old-fashioned? How do you do that? And I think that was the brilliance of Rabila, how she managed that.
I think I think I've given a little bit of details already, but I did want to point out the use of the new font. If you would have noticed, like this font, and this is something that I, as a designer, have been struggling designing with Urdu. There is like in English, there is so much there is so much range that you can work with, and to make your design look better. But the design, the font that we were using earlier, it was so difficult. There's no glyphs. So glyphs are like different kind of letter forms of the same letter that you can kind of just highlight and use just so your design looks a bit more I would say um looks better, for somebody who knows, and then for other people's experience as well. Visually, it looks much more stunning when you have these little details that you use. And then with this new font, this was something that like they had the glyphs, and then they had these like the calf, like I don't, what do you call it?
Diacritic marks, the diacritic marks.
Diacritic marks, exactly.
Yes, yes.
There are multiple versions of like how you can kind of utilize them in the design. That I think all of those processes are like, there are so many little stories about it. And in terms of the design, I just wanted it to be minimal. I just wanted it to not look and sound like we have this idea, and this is something that I've run across. Oh, if it's Urdu, then it's supposed to look a bit dated. And I was totally opposed that. Like, I wanted Urdu to look and feel as mature and as experimented with as even Arabic typography today in the UAE. It's extremely developed now, and I'm loving to see that the same is happening with Urdu, and I think this project really kind of helps push that as well. Yeah, and the
Yeah,
rest I
I
think
think
you'll see for yourself.
yeah, I think as a designer, it is extremely difficult to work with the Urdu fonts, whether it is a new font. And I'm very happy to know about this new font, Urdu V, I think, if I'm pronouncing it right. And it is a development in itself that someone out there is working and diligently working on Urdu fonts for
Yes.
even before launching it to the
Yeah.
public, and working and developing and countering the difficulties we get while developing a book and on its beta version and everything. And it is
Yeah.
very heartening to know about it. And I do understand that whatever the difficulties you must have been faced, And so tell us,
Nuzhat, if I may
yes,
intervene
yeah,
here.
yeah, please.
You're talking about fonts, and we've spoken about it. You have actually lamented how difficult it is, talking about Urdu fonts and the printing and whatnot. Meher has also spoken about, the hardships there were when she was bringing out Uljagam, translated works of Naveen Kishore, Knotted Grief. I'm reminded of that.
Yes, I think
Absolutely.
I have shared this with
Thank you,
Sabine.
Zarmeena. Thank
Yeah,
you for your support.
and I would love to hear whatever Meher has to say about this, because I have speak with Sabine about this, that I have bought a few of the new publications of Urdu, and then I have to grab a pencil, because I cannot manage to read it without marking the
No.
mistakes or marking the corrections
No.
on it, or errors
Yeah,
on it.
in-
Please share something about it, Meher.
No, that's very true that the Urdu font is very difficult in terms of typing and putting words together. However, I would like to highlight that there is a gentleman who has actually developed an Urdu keyboard, and I would strongly recommend you all check out his work. It was a fantastic story in time by Anmol Irfan on Zirak Khan and the keyboard that he's developed. And I think that their credit must be given to other people as well who've raised issues about this, such as Musharraf Faruqi of Kitab, who've also spoken about the necessity to make Urdu literature public and more accessible, particularly for children. But again, while the issue of the Urdu font and Urdu text is coming up, I think developments have taken place now. How we utilize them and how we push them forward to create Urdu literature that is contemporary, but also sort of upholds the necessity for our language, that comes down to all of us to work together and pave the way forward.
Yes.
I just had a very quick anecdote to add, which was like when I received the miniature paintings, and this is more to do with the images, but it's just the detail of the process, which is I ended up editing the colors of the trees and all of that in my pursuit of like contemporariness. And Jermina was like, why did you change the green of the trees? And I'm like, I thought it just looks much better this way. It looks a bit more contemporary. And then she goes like, no, I want it to be natural. I want the tonality of a miniature painting to stay. And that's how much back and forth kind of went into every little kind
No,
of
but that's
thing.
very good, Rabina, because I think that
Yeah.
shows that you're actually pushing, and that's where my work is, right? To push forward creative development. And I think in a way it's good that you were able to take something that's so traditional, that's seen as almost sacred, particularly in cities such as Lahore, and then you're sort of innovating with it and pushing it forward without actually compromising on the essence of it. Now, when you're able to do something like that, you're able to create something absolutely new. And that in turn is where the development of the industry takes place. And that is where languages then get to stay alive as well, right? Because it's very easy to put something together in a form of a language and put it out there. And yes, schools will pick it up and universities will pick it up and people like it and people read it and all that. But then that's it. That's it dies. Right. And so the idea here is to keep pushing forward creative thought. So I'm really glad that, the two of you actually did this, where you took language and you took imagery and you innovated with it and you put something new out there, because that's where your work will continue to live on, and you'll see it manifesting in other people's form, and they will sort of trace it back to this particular publication by saying that हमने यहाँ पे देखा था तो हमने यहाँ से सीखा है तो अब हम यहाँ से आगे काम ले जा रहे हैं.
Yeah, and I even thought like for kids also this would be a great conversation, not just the stories itself, but just a conversation on the visual itself. It's so interesting for them to know where this is from.
It is, and I think it's very important for them to sort of take the Urdu language and see that Urdu language isn't just Urdu Qaida.
Yes.
There's a lot more to it as well, right? And you can innovate with it, and I see it happening on Pakistani Instagram as well. So kudos to both of you, Zarmeena.
Thank you.
Many congratulations, and I'd love to get a copy of this. A signed one. Thank you very much.
You'll have to wait till I come to Pakistan for that.
I'm in
Oh,
Dubai. I
Dubai.
can't believe we
Oh
missed
gosh. Okay, then when I'm in Dubai next.
Done.
Shari
Done.
Rabila hasn't received her copy yet either. So she's sitting in Dubai. So I hope you guys
Rabila, we
can.
must get together.
And
For
Sabine,
sure.
Sabine has it. Sabine's got hers
Yes.
because I met her when I was in
Must
Dubai.
take you, Rabila and I. We wait for our
Books.
DHS packages.
And obviously I'm gonna get one too. I don't think I have to say it.
Rabila's is actually waiting for her over there. She has to pick it up. Okay, it's been there for like over a month. So hopefully she'll get it.
Yes,
No, that's
or actually, it is very interesting to speak with the designers who have recently been working on Urdu text, and I think for the next WLF, I will have this idea to curate that we gather a few, inshallah, to gather a few designers who have this kind of experience. And as you have mentioned, I do know about Zurich and a few developers who are working with Urdu
Please do
font
reach out to Zira.
and because this kind of conversation we do need to develop better Urdu books, and because we are lagging behind more because of the font. It is a beautiful khat. Urdu khat is a very beautiful thing to work with, but it is extremely difficult because there is a lack of technology development in it, and this is what we have to rectify as people working with Urdu.
You've
And,
identified it, and now
yes.
hopefully people will get on to rectifying it.
Yes, I hope this conversation will
It
have
will.
that kind of
It most
impact.
certainly will. Sabine, we're going to have to tag and more than Zurich on this and be like, right, the two of you need to help us out with
Absolutely.
this.
Definitely.
Okay.
So you can wrap up now.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Meher. But I would like to have final words from Zamina and Rabila, and do share something about your experiences and anything you want to share.
Well, I just want to say that we've been very, very lucky. It's again, I'll give you a tashbih from architecture. The Khan Award for Architecture isn't only given to the architect; it's given to the contractor and to the client, and also to the architect. And the reason for that is that His Highness understood that a good product or a good project or building is a result of this three-way communication and understanding of the aesthetic. So I as an architect, मेरी हर analogy architecture से ही होती है. So I will say that I was very lucky that this back and forth that I had with Rabila, that I had with Dr. Arfa, that I had with the huge translation team and everybody else involved in Joy of Urdu, that we spoke each other's language, that we understood what the end goal was, and that we were open to suggestions and never lost sight of the goal. The goal being not Zarmeena and Sari's project or Rabila's design or Kazim Saeed's and Temur and Hastonis's translation, or Ahmad Ali Bhutta's blah, or Syed Abdullah Shah Alami's drawings. The aim was joy of Urdu and giving the next generation the joy of Urdu. And I think that's what all of us worked so sincerely and never lost sight of that goal. And I think that's how we were able to really work, and whatever the result was, it was, does this serve our end goal? Will we have a good product that will forward our mission of promoting the joy of Urdu, of promoting Urdu and the idea and perception of Urdu? So we've been very fortunate, alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Zarmeena. Please, Rabila.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that because I've been working with quite a number of artists because of my work at Al Sirkala Avenue. I've just met a lot of enthusiasts. But Zarmeena is kind of one of a kind person who's working with a complete volunteer team. I know I keep bringing it up, but the whole idea and this idea of a volunteer team is just so fascinating to me. I feel like people are they're putting in time and energy because they believe in something, and I find that extremely cool. I like when I joined the team, there were like a bunch of Urdu enthusiasts, and I was the only one who was there for the design. And to this day, I would say, like, I've not read an Urdu book, but I'm moved by it, and I'm moved by the work, and I'm and I you know it I just wanted to say that it's kind of it brings a number of a very crazy people to bring about a project like that, but extremely passionate ones as well. And I'm just so happy to see it kind of flourish
Crazy is
into
good.
something real.
Crazy is always good.
Crazy, yes. Obsessive.
Oh, all these
I think Sabine is as a person who completely understands that because of all the work that she does.
Yeah. And that's how we create magic, you know. We need crazy in our lives.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabila,
you.
and thank you, Zarmeena, for joining us on this conversation. And it was a lovely fireside chat with you. And I hope we will stay connected and work together for the joy of Urdu.
For
Thank you
sure.
so much.
For sure.
Thank you,
Thank you
Sabine.
so much
Thank
for having us. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
you.
Bye.
Khuda Hafiz. Khuda Hafiz.